All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing great. Welcome to our live chat today with Aquarius Leslie. You might have seen me before. My name is Anshika. I am one of the educators here at Birch Aquarium, and I'll have my guest Leslie introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see all of you today, and thank you for joining us. I'm Leslee Matsushige. I am Associate Curator here at the Birch Aquarium at Scripps, and I am in charge of our Seahorse and Sea Dragon program here at the aquarium. And I've been working here for almost 29 years now and been involved with seahorses and sea dragons for over 25 years. And so this is sort of something that I've spent most of my life doing, and it's been a great ride.
Super awesome. We're so lucky to have you working at the aquarium for so long, Leslie. Today, we're kind of going to be celebrating our baby sea dragons 1 year birthday. Like, it's actually today, which is really cool. So we have two baby sea dragons. One's birthday was yesterday and one is today. So we're kind of just bringing this in as a celebration of happy 1 year and one year birthday to our baby sea dragons.
Yes, I'm really excited. Today is really kind of a monumental day for us at the aquarium, being that our sea dragons that hatched here at the aquarium 1 year ago exactly, yesterday and today, are thriving. And we're super excited to really chat about that today and tell you the story of those sea dragons and why it's such a great accomplishment for us.
Yes. So here's actually a video of one of our baby sea dragons when they were very young. I think this is probably just when they were a few days old, right, Leslie?
Yes. This is a great little video because it really gives you kind of a scale. They're approximately 3/4 of an inch in length, so that's how small they are. And you can see the little specks flying around in the water with them, and that's their food. They're tiny little baby brine shrimp that we hatched out just for the sea dragons, the baby sea dragons. So they're, you can see them actively searching and looking. Their eyes are moving around, and you can see that they will, they did eat a lot of those baby brine shrimp, and then eventually they will eat baby mice.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Like they just look so cute, especially when they were just born, so small, and you see all those little appendages on them. That's just part of their body. So it's really cool to see how small they were when they were first born. Like you said, they were only about 3/4 of an inch long.
Yeah.
And now we'll see some pictures later and some videos of how big they've gotten now, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yes, it's really cool to see a little miniature Weedy Seadragon like that. It's something you don't often see in aquariums. So I'm really happy that we were able to show these videos because they are super cute. You can see that they're already in this picture here. Their appendages are starting to grow. They grow very quickly when they're first born or first hatched out of their egg. They can grow a centimeter a week at that point.
Wow, that's really cool. Yes. So since we're celebrating their birthday today, can you mentioned a bit about why, like, that it's such an accomplishment to have had these babies born here at the aquarium. Would you mind going into a little bit more about why it's such an accomplishment to have raised these babies?
Sure. It is quite an accomplishment because it's been a long time coming for us. We have started working with Weedy Seadragons in 1997, which was the year that we got our first Weedy Seadragon, and it was an adult. And we didn't know anything about keeping them. We did have some experience raising seahorses, which are really close relatives to sea dragons, but we never had one before, and not very many other aquariums had experience as well. So we were all kind of in this together, trying to figure out what would be the best way to keep the sea dragons. So, of course, we had a lot of trial and error, and we learned a lot over the years, and we became a lot more successful at keeping sea dragons in the aquarium and on display. And with that, we tried our best to keep them healthy and give them the best habitat for them that we could here at the aquarium. And when they start thriving and they're healthy and happy, they will probably begin to breed. And so that's what we started to see as they got healthy. We really learned a lot about nutrition and their needs in their space in the tank. And we tried to give them the best food that we could and a space for them to thrive in. And once that happened, we started seeing courting behaviors with our sea dragons. And so that was really interesting because we had not seen that previous to this. And so just seeing that was very encouraging. And it kind of, for me, it meant, and you can see here in the video, this is the courting behavior. We call it mirroring. They kind of swim side by side with to each other, and then they curl their tails outward. And that's why they mirror each other. And there was a lot of this sort of behavior going on, especially early in the mornings and late in the evenings. So that was really encouraging for us. And I felt like we had moved over this one milestone of, starting to get this courting behavior.
That's really cool. It's really awesome to see after working so hard for so long, seeing like the effects starting to take place. So I think that's super awesome, getting this, like, you've worked so hard and you finally got to see that courting behavior. So it was another step in the process.
Yeah. And that was great. And so then after seeing more and more courting behaviors, we were hoping that they were going to try and attempt to transfer eggs, because with seahorses and sea dragons, it's the male that does a lot of the care of raising and holding onto the babies. So with sea dragons, the female produces the eggs, but she transfers the eggs onto the undersides and sides of the male's tail. So you can see here in this video, this is actually more of a mating and breeding behavior versus just courting. And we see the dragons coming up side by side to one another and just kind of getting themselves into the right position where they're side by side. So here we see a lot of interesting behaviors because we see 3 sea dragons here all kind of vying to figure out who's going to hang out with who and possibly breed with who. And so we see these 2 swimming up together, which is actually a characteristic behavior of egg transfer, where they start swimming up together and they're actually crossing over a little bit. You see here, and then doing this, multiple times until they, I think, feel it's the right moment. And so when we started seeing this behavior, it was super encouraging again, because this was something different and getting towards a successful egg transfer, which was what we were looking and hoping for a long time. And so you can see now they're really getting together and swimming up and crossing over. And you can see where the eggs are going to be coming out from the female is really close to where the male's tail is. And so all of this was really something we didn't quite know for sure it was what happened, but we have this surveillance videos that we keep on the tank, and this allowed us to actually see what occurred when the egg transfer happens. And so they're reaching the surface, they swim upwards towards the surface, and then they kind of swim together, and she releases her eggs, and they're very sticky. So they stick to the sides of the male's tail, and then he kind of shimmies around and then places and gets the eggs all stuck to the sides of his tail. And then he will, you can see here, the eggs actually being released. And unfortunately, not all of the eggs were transferred, but a few of the eggs were successfully transferred. And I think this is all still a learning process for even the sea dragons. And so you can see here that there are eggs stuck on the sides of the male's tail there. And of course, this is what the eggs look like. They're about 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter. So they're actually about a little bit smaller than the size of a salmon egg. But you can see they're stuck to the sides of his tail because they're sticky. And then he fertilizes the eggs. And then what happens is his skin is really spongy on the sides of his tail. And they actually become almost embedded into the skin, and they form a little cup around the egg to hold them in place. So the male can carry these eggs on his tail as they develop. And they will take about 8 weeks to develop. So he carries them around. And of course, this is really great because he protects the eggs that way. So, there's less chance of any other fish trying to eat them or damage them. So
And what's
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. And what's really cool is those eggs on the left side, that those were actually some of the babies, right? Those are the ones that are our babies that just turned a year old. So that's really cool that we actually were able to see the babies from before they were hatched.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was really nerve-wracking, not really knowing for sure that they were developing, but it sure did look like they were, because they changed from a pink color like you see on the right, and then as they develop, they get darker inside of there, and actually you can see eye spots starting to develop. So we were hoping and praying that those eggs were developing, and of course it takes 8 weeks, so you're constantly watching. And as it got close to, actually after day 50, I was really getting antsy, and I was like, oh, please let them be developing. And so at day 53, we I came in the morning and I looked at it and I noticed that one of the eggs was missing, and I was like, no. And I looked all around the tank and I was like, where's the egg? And I looked and looked and looked, and I went on the top, I looked down, I looked from the side, I looked from the front, and then all of a sudden, in the corner of my eye, in the very front bottom of the tank, about 5 inches off the bottom, I saw this little tiny brown, what looked like a piece of grass. And so,
wow.
And when I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is it. This is the baby. And it was really such an amazing moment for me and the rest of the team, because it really meant that, we got to that milestone again. It's like we actually had an egg hatch, and we had a baby that was seemed to be doing really well. So that was a magic moment for all of us. And, of course, I called everybody over, and everybody was so excited to see, because some of us had never really seen it before. And so it was really a really great moment.
That's really cool. You must have needed some eagle eyes to be able to find the babies in such a big exhibit, right? Because that baby, you said, was so small. So it must have been a lot of looking very closely at every possible thing in the tank.
Yes, it did take me a while to find it, but it was there. So that was really, really exciting. So, and then after that, it was like, okay, this is awesome. And we got the baby, and it's like, okay, now we're on to our next challenge, right? It's like, now we're going to have to raise this baby. And so that, again, it's like, all right, we have to have the right food. We have to have the right tank for it. We had to remove it from the big tank, because it's really difficult to be able to feed the baby, and then also to make sure everything's going all right with it, and just being able to watch it closely. So we moved it into a tiny little roundish shaped tank called a chrysal. There you go. And this tank was really great, because what it does is it keeps the food in suspension, so they're able to easily feed. And it also keeps the sea dragons in the good positioning in the water. And so we were able to get it to eat. It ate pretty much right away. So we fed it, like we talked about earlier, the baby brine shrimp, but we also acquired baby mysis shrimp. And mysis shrimp is really the food that they prefer to feed on. So we had 1 day old baby mysis shrimp. So they're really, really tiny, but they really loved it, and they were really munching it up. They eat constantly. Sea dragons have a intestinal tract that's just straight, and it's not all convoluted like we think of intestines. So they eat their food, they pass their food through their intestine, get the nutrients out of it, and then pass it and poop. So they need to eat pretty much constantly. And so we always want to make sure that they had food in their tank. And that was something that I think was key in order for them to thrive and grow. And like I said earlier, they grew like about 1 centimeter within 1 to 2 weeks. So they were growing very quickly as long as they had really good food.
Yeah, and you might have seen that picture we had up just a little while ago, actually showed a baby mysid shrimp on the screen as well. So you might have seen how small that mysid shrimp was compared to the already small baby Weedy Seadragon. So it's crazy to think that they are being fed such tiny animals. And that's why, like you were saying, it's really important to move these animals move the sea dragons to a smaller tank, because imagine having to find them every single time in that big tank. That would just be a full-time job itself, is just finding the Weedy Seadragons.
Yes, exactly. So we were able to really watch them up close and just monitor them and see that they were eating. And, you know, our live feed aquarist, Eric Ng, he was in charge of making sure that the food was always there for them. And he made sure that they always were eating and they had food and that their tank was clean. So he really had a huge part in, you know, doing, in these sea dragons doing well. And so, you know, as long as you got food and they're eating, they're going to grow. And so we saw them sprouting really quickly, and it was very exciting to see them grow. And you know, and it's crazy because I can't believe how quickly it went by. You know, it's been a tough year for everybody, and you know, but this was the one thing that was like really encouraging for us to have something like this going on in the middle of this pandemic. And just being able to see them grow and thrive was just really great. And you can see them here in this picture. They're getting a lot longer. We had to move them into a bigger chrysal. So that instead of I think it was probably like a foot diameter chrysal when they first started out, we moved them into a 2.5 foot diameter, almost 3 foot diameter, larger chrysal for them to even grow bigger as they started to grow. And like, you know, we started off with baby mysis when they were really young. And then within a couple of weeks, they needed mysis that were bigger. So then we were acquiring mysis that were like about maybe, you know, 5 days to 7 days old. And then, you know, when they became a month old, they were eating, you know, even larger mysis. And then, you know, within a couple months, they were already eating adult mysis, which the adult sea dragons feed on. So once they start feeding on the adult mysis shrimp, then they really start growing. And, you know, now a year later, I can't believe it. And they're about 8 to 9 inches in length now. So they've really grown a lot. And, you know, and it's again, another achievement, being able to get them to the next step, to now here we are. They're a year old, and it's a great celebration for us. And now we're able to bring them on display. And we're super excited about being able to share that with our followers and our supporters, and being able to put them on display. And so we've got them now in our Sea Dragon exhibit, which is a very large tank. But
and that's what you can see right here.
Yeah,
that's what we're sharing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a live view Sea Dragon cam now that you can view through the aquarium's website, and you'll be able to see those sea dragons swimming around in the tank with their other tank mates. So you know, it's just really great and exciting, and we're hopeful that we can replicate this again. That's the ultimate goal. We want to be able to have consistent breeding in the aquarium and being able to raise more babies. This is the goal that we've been working on for so long, and we're well along our way, and we still have more to do, but we really want to take the time and celebrate today.
Yeah. And now that they're in our big exhibit right here that we can see, I know they've grown quite a lot, right? So is there really a way to tell them apart? Like if a viewer wanted to go take a look at this exhibit on our live cam, is it easy to tell the babies apart from the adults, or are they pretty much almost the same size now?
Well, these are our babies that are about a year old. Like I said, they're about 8 to 9 inches in length. So they are not quite as big as the adults. The adults can be up to maybe like 16 to 18 inches in length. So there are some adults in there right now that are significantly larger. So you would be able to tell those adults from our yearlings. But there are, they all kind of look alike. And so if you only see one and you can't make a size reference, it might be a little difficult to tell which ones are the babies. They are very, very similar. And if you don't look at them very closely on a day-to-day basis, it'd be really difficult. And, you know, and they camouflage so well in our exhibit. And that's really what we also want to show people, is that the way that their bodies are, you know, adapted to their environment, they're meant to blend in. And so sometimes it might be difficult to see them in our exhibit. You can see back there, way in the background above the plants, the seagrass, there's one swimming up above it. But again, they are very well camouflaged. So it is, and that's to their advantage so that they don't get eaten by their predators. But so you have to look real carefully, but they are there. Yeah.
Especially since they're such slow swimmers, right? They definitely want to blend in and kind of focus. They're not going to swim away from a predator. Their main goal is to blend in, so no predators or anything will be able to get them.
Yes, exactly. And it's amazing how well that works, because even me, when I look at them every day, sometimes I really am like, where are they? You have to really look closely and carefully. And then, it's like, oh, it's right there in front of the plant. I just didn't see it. So it really works for them. And it's really cool to see that.
And how many sea dragons do we have in this exhibit now, including our two new babies?
We currently have 8 sea dragons in this tank right now. And so, so when you look at the cam, just kind of be patient, because eventually you will see a dragon. And we do have feeding times on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, where we'd be feeding them right about 2 p.m. And so at that time, they tend to be a little more active, and they actually come out in the open more to come out and feed. So that's a really good time to come and view the sea dragons through the Sea Dragon Cam.
That's really cool. Everyone can mark their calendars, come back. I know I will be. I miss getting to see these little guys in person as well. So definitely will be coming back to watch those feedings, because I think it's super cool. Because sea dragons are really accurate predators too, right?
Yes. They have amazing vision. Their eyes are pretty big for their bodies, because they actually rely on their vision to see their prey. And they have those really long snouts that they kind of jerk back down and up. They kind of pull back the bottom part of their jaw, and they're able to create a really strong suction that they suck in their food. So they kind of aim, because I watch them so much. I see them looking, and they're aiming right at the food, and then all of a sudden, like in a split second, they just kind of lunge forward with their jaws and then suck their food in. And it's amazing that I would say 95% of the time they get the food. They get that little mysis shrimp.
That's awesome. That's really cool to see. We do have some questions that have been coming in the chat. So a question from Tracy, from Connor. He's asking, what is the predator of a sea dragon?
Oh, that's a good question. There's nothing really that preys on sea dragons like exclusively. They're kind of randomly taken by larger fish, or even like I've seen videos of a sea lion playing with the sea dragon and just tossing it around, but not necessarily eating them, because they're very hard-bodied and kind of a little spiky. And so they're not very palatable, I would say, to most fish. They may be swallowed whole by some big fish, but really there's not really much that really preys on them. Sometimes I've been diving with sea dragons in Australia, and you'll see sea dragons with missing appendages. So you know that something tried, but really wasn't successful at taking a sea dragon.
So you're saying, so you can see that their appendages are kind of missing, and you mentioned that they live in Australia. Is that kind of where they're natively found?
Yeah, so sea dragons are really interesting, because they are endemic to Southern Australia. So that means that they're only found in Southern Australia and nowhere else in the world. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so important for us to really learn as much as we can about sea dragons, because their range is relatively small when you think about the whole world, in an area that may be threatened by so many different things, by impacts from, runoff and development, and even, the warmings of our oceans, because they live in the southern part of Australia where the water is cold. Most people look at a sea dragon and they think, oh, they must be from some tropical reef. Well, no, they live in areas where there's a lot of seaweed and seagrass growing. That's why they look like the way they do. And usually those seagrasses and seaweeds grow really thick in cooler water. So ocean warming may reduce the I guess the health of those areas. And so we want to make sure that, we learn as much as we can about sea dragons. And that's why it's so important for us at the aquarium to keep them here and learn as much as we can. And by having them in the aquarium and them thriving and actually reproducing, breeding and reproducing, we see the whole life history of a sea dragon. And we understand that now. And we can see how vulnerable they might be in their natural habitat. So we can share all of this information so that those areas and those species of fish can be managed correctly.
Yeah, definitely. And by having this like captive population that has been being bred at the aquarium, you can also release some of the stress on the wild populations too, right? So you can learn all of this information from these animals that were bred here at the aquarium and pass that information on to other places as well.
Yes, we're all about sharing information. It's so great now that people are so willing to work together for a common cause, right? And the main reason is we all care about the oceans and we want to protect our oceans. And conservation is really important, especially for us here at the aquarium. Where our mission is to just connect understanding to protecting our ocean planet. And so this is all part of it. And we work with so many other colleagues at other aquariums around the country and the world that we share this information so that we can help each other get to this goal of being able to know as much as we can about these amazing fish. And so, that in itself has really helped us move forward quicker and allowed us to get to where we are today.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool to see, and because working together is such an important part of working at an aquarium. I love that aspect of Birch, just seeing how much we work with other aquariums just to pass knowledge and even to pass animals between aquariums. I think it's really cool to see the whole process over time.
Yeah, and we want to have a sustainable collection of sea dragons in the aquarium. So like you said, we don't have to rely on taking them from the wild. And really, at this time, we don't really take that much from the wild. And so we rely on captive rearing in Australia. And they are very protective of their sea dragons in Australia. And they're trying to manage that, in their particular states in Australia. So that's very hopeful. And we're just hoping that we can, help along the way by even keeping them in aquariums to promote awareness to people, because so many people come to the aquarium and have never seen a sea dragon before and are really blown away at what an amazing fish it is. I mean, some people don't even realize that it's a fish because it doesn't even really look like a typical fish. So it's just amazing to be able to share with people the amazing diversity in our oceans and being able to make them start to care and take notice that we need to really, take care of our oceans.
Yeah, I'll admit the first time I saw a sea dragon, I was kind of in that same boat, being like, that's not a real animal. That's just an extension of the exhibit. That's not the animal, because they blend in so well and they just look so funny. Mm-hmm. Especially like the Weedy Seadragons and also other species as well. They get even more fantastical as you go.
Yeah. So, and that's our way to get people, interested. It's like, wow, look at this. And then, hopefully they start caring and you tell them some amazing things about, this fish and so many other animals that live in our oceans. And, it's great to see people just get enlightened and have a great experience and learn.
Yes, definitely. And since we've been talking so much about these wonderful animals and just how much care and how much intensive care has gone into taking care of these animals, is there anyone, because I'm sure it takes a team to raise these guys, right? Yeah. So is there anyone you'd like to acknowledge, anyone you'd like to specifically shout out for helping take care of these wonderful cuties?
Yeah, like I said, it's taken a lot of time and effort, and it's a labor of love and really a lot of hard work. And so, it's not only me. I mean, I've been working with them for so long, but we have an incredible team in the husbandry department here at the Birch Aquarium, and there are, right now we have 12 of us at the aquarium, and here's a picture. This is our Christmas photo. And actually 13 of us, one person just retired, Vince, but you know, it's an amazing team of people that we all support all of the programs that we do within the husbandry department, and directly or indirectly, everyone is a part of it. So it's a success for the whole team. But specifically, I really want to call out Eric Ng, who's there on the right, who really was in charge of providing the food that those little baby sea dragons needed throughout their whole year of life. And he was basically like the dad. And he really watched over them and made sure that they thrived. And Kaylee here on the left, oh yeah, and we're pointing out the little baby sea dragons guys out there. There they are. And Kaylee here on the left, she also really helped out to assist in taking care of the dragons as well. So, you know, kudos to them and the rest of the team for all the support. You know, there's so many indirect things that all like play into this, and, you know, it takes a village. And so I'm really proud of the team and thankful for all of them.
Yeah, it's really cool to see just how all of your hard work has paid off. I remember when I first got the email that the baby sea dragons were hatched, and the fact that it was a nice little Valentine's Day present last year was really cool. I remember the whole education team signed a little Valentine's Day card and sent it over to you guys.
You know what? It's funny you say that, because I keep this on my desk. You know, because you guys really made me feel so good. It's great. They all said congratulations. Oops. Congratulations. It's a Weedy Seadragon baby. And you know, it's so cool that really the whole aquarium really supports the effort. Not only the husbandry team, but everyone at the aquarium. And so it's a success for everyone here. And you know, it's really fun, and happy birthday, Sea Dragons, today.
It's so exciting. I love hearing all these updates about them, just hearing them from you and from the other aquarists, just getting the emails is always so exciting just to see how the process is kind of progressing over the past year.
Yeah, so we're hopeful that those dragons will really take off in the new exhibit and grow, and we're very hopeful that, you know, those sea dragons maybe someday are going to have their own babies here at the aquarium, and you know, so it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I see a couple of questions have come in our chat. Tracy asked, how often do sea dragons lay eggs?
That's a great question too, because in the wild, the sea dragons typically will transfer eggs in their spring, which in Australia is, you know, in October, and they usually hatch out around December for Christmas. So at the aquarium, we've seen quite a few females producing eggs, and typically we can see up to 2 egg productions a year in the females. And not all the females produce eggs, but the ones that do can produce up to 2 I guess broods of eggs. So,
awesome.
So there's many chances. We just have to make sure that they're all synced together correctly. They're all kind of still learning.
Yeah. I see a good question. I'm going to specifically ask this one because I love the answer to this. Giancarlo asked, how do you transfer the newborn sea dragons into the chrysal?
Oh, yeah. So we ended up getting a cup, you know, about the size of your typical, you know, like a typical drinking cup like this, maybe just a little bit wider. And we banded it to a long pole so that we could get it down to where the sea dragon was in the tank. And then we just kind of slowly brought it up underneath the little baby sea dragon and got it in the cup and brought the cup up to the surface. And then we were able to take the cup and put the sea dragon into the chrysal. So we never net it. You know, we always transfer it in water. Even the adults, we never net them. We just put them in a bucket and we transport them or move them in water. So we're very, very careful with our dragons. Sometimes I call them divas, but
yes, it's always better to be safer with them, especially because they are so fragile, like especially when they're so small, right? Just they have all of those appendages. So definitely worth taking that extra care, creating your own products and just figuring out the best way to transport them from a huge tank into a smaller tank. And how about getting them, did you do the same thing to put them back recently?
Yeah, so now they're big enough to fit in like a small bucket. So what we did was we kind of coaxed them up to the surface, and then we lower the bucket into the water and then let them, flow into the bucket. And then we take the whole bucket with us to the exhibit and then gently release them into the tank that way. So we do it one by one.
Nice. That's really cool. Awesome. Let's see. So I think, let's see if we have any more questions to address. Okay, sorry, my computer's being a little bit odd. Okay. So I saw a question earlier. Yep, that one right there. Behind the scenes person's got it down for us. So can you kind of talk about the lighting on the exhibit? So as this camera is going around, you might notice there's some dark spots, some light spots. Can you kind of talk about kind of what's going on with the lighting here?
Yes. So with the sea dragons, really, really bright lighting is really not optimal. And so I try to kind of get the lighting so it kind of spotlights different areas around the tank, and it kind of gives you a feel like you're in the ocean, so you don't really see the back. That's what I try to do. The lighting, though, is actually really important when we, for mornings and night. We try to simulate a sunrise and a sunset. There's actually a tiny skylight above this tank that actually will bring in the natural light, but it's not enough to light the whole tank. So I do have lights above the tank that come on in phases. So they come on very slowly, and it's almost like a dimmer that kind of slowly ramps up. So we start, kind of with the blue lights. There's blue lights and white lights above the tank. And so they ramp up from a night light. They have a night light, by the way, for those of you who may not know. We keep a blue light as a night light for them because they're very sensitive to light. So when it's really dark, they don't like it for some reason, and they kind of get kind of freaked out. And so we have a night light on there. But in the mornings, the lights ramp up from blue, and they get brighter and brighter. And then the white starts ramping up until midday, where it's the highest intensity. And then it goes back down afternoon. They slowly ramp down to night till they get back to the darker blue color. So in different times during the day, the lighting is going to change in the tank because we're trying to simulate what it's like being out in the ocean. We want to give them those cues that it's more natural for them, so that maybe those cues will give them the cue to maybe breed. And so we try to alter the temperature as well to different times of the year, and then also try to do the day length as well.
Yeah, so definitely want to keep it as accurate to their native areas as possible. So that's definitely a really cool thing to just keep track of and just try different things, see what works.
Mm-hmm. And, like we have been closed for a while, so I have kind of dimmed it down a little bit, but probably now with this cam being on, I will try to brighten up a little bit more for you. So thank you for the reminder.
Awesome. Well, I think that is all the time we have today. So remember, if you guys are ever missing our sea dragon babies, or our adults even, you're more than welcome to log on to our website and check out this live camera. It's on all day, every day. And you can check out specifically the feedings on, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays?
Yes, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays at about 2 p.m.
Yeah, so definitely come back and check that out. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.